maybe that's why I steer clear of political combos because I feel like maybe those are breeding grounds for drama queens or I feel like there's a lot of drama in those conversations potentially.
There are 10 people waiting for you to arrive. And this is the way you arrive. Late in a flurry, making it all about you, sucking all the oxygen out of the room. So, my definition of a drama queen, those are the people that, oh, you wouldn't believe it. I was on my way here and I was late and I had to get dinner because I haven't eaten all day. And I had got the dinner in the car and I was trying to eat it on the way and it spilled all over my lap because I had to slam on the brakes because some idiot in front of me was slammed on his brakes. And I'm sorry, I wanted to be together for this meeting, but I'm just falling apart.
Yeah.
Right? They
Yep.
sweep into the room. It's never anything they've done, but there's always a big excuse, a big story, a big thing that's going on that is beyond their control, that is throwing them off, which they're normally very calm.
Yeah. Do you know anyone like this?
I know, yes, I do. There's one person that comes to mind, the person that I learned it from that was someone that an associate. I'm a bit like you. I find drama queens very, very draining, right? I can't get jazzed up about some guy slammed on his brakes when you were on your way here. I just can't. And in fact, so this one example, that was a true example that happened. And my reaction at the time was there are 10 people waiting for you to arrive at this. This was the leader of the meeting. There are 10 people waiting for you to arrive. And this is the way you arrive. Late in a flurry, making it all about you, sucking all the oxygen out of the room.
Yeah.
It just was like, you know what? Leave earlier.
Yeah. I just had a thought that drama queen maybe is a little bit unique in that it's almost like it's like an overt internal or a external internal vampire because it's not typically about the other people.
Right.
Or it very in that example it's not. So like I was saying I don't get pulled into the rabbit hole of the drama queens because it's typically just them narrating their own
That's
internal
right.
vampire,
And
which is
draw
not
it's
triggering to me.
right. So they're drawing all the energy, all the oxygen out of the room.
Yeah, that makes sense. And
Right.
that's why
Just
I think it's easy to, maybe easier for me at least to avoid that.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you think where the name comes from, it makes sense because if you're watching a drama on a stage, like you're watching actors, all of your focus, everybody is trained on them, right? And that's sort of the idea of it that I have so much going on that everybody needs to have their attention trained on me.
Yeah.
And I have a really strong, I want to say a community commitment that you have a commitment to whatever community you're in at the time to do
hmm
your part and not take up more than your space. Take up your space, but don't take up more than your space and leave space for other people.
hmm
So I don't tend to get drawn in, but I do tend to get really irritated. So I guess that's drawn in a way.
Yeah. I was going to ask, you were saying drama queen at the opera. Oh yeah, is that the same as like a friend of mine told me that there's somebody he knows that he interacts with pretty regularly and he described every conversation he has with them as heavy, right? So
Oh, yes.
he
Yeah.
says like just catching up like, "Oh, how's it going?" just like a casual and they're like, "Well, you know, like
Yeah.
could be better because of this and this." And it's
Yeah.
not really the time or place. Like every time and place they get in a conversation, it's always heavy, he says. But this person that he's describing anyway, they seem to be like down, right? So it's like, do you consider that drama queen, right? Where they're like, someone is down and always kind of projecting onto you no matter the circumstances or context of the
Yeah.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think of a drama queen as someone who collects stories to drop on the next person that they talk to. And so I think everybody has some of these things in them. So my form of drama queen would be I've left too late to drive somewhere and I'm just on the edge of where I might make it on time if everything works out perfectly in traffic, but of course it doesn't. So then I start collecting, well, that stoplight was too long, that car cut me off, that like I'm collecting up all of the stories for how I can present myself when I get there. And so I think there are people who their way of life is to collect up these stories and then just drop them on everybody that they see. It feels a little bit like it might go into the territory of the victim, but I think the difference is that they're saying I'm not a victim here, but I've never seen traffic like that,
It's
or I'm not.
deflector like too, right?
It's a bit deflector like too. It's like, yeah, it's like saying, I'm not going to allow you to judge me at all because I'm going to tell you everything. I'm going to suck up all the oxygen, tell you everything that went wrong, that is not my fault. And normally I wouldn't be like this, but today it's this.
Yeah. I definitely used to do that a lot when I was younger. I remember before I realized that, oh, making a bunch of excuses, like there's a very low threshold for the amount of excuses you can make. And once you get
Yeah.
to three, it's
Yeah.
all noise.
Yeah.
So like before I realized that, I used to do that a lot. Whereas like, yeah, I would have been on time, or this would have been, it's not really my fault because of ABC.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just thought of another person too, who's more of like yeah, they just lack accountability in every instance, and they become, I guess, drama queens or like
Yeah.
they're dramatically deflecting things onto other people proactively, in the business world.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I never really thought of them as like a drama queen, but I think it's at least a little applicable.
Yeah, comes to mind is a someone that he didn't work for me, but I had to work in conjunction with him. And I got so tired of him not doing things he said he was going to do. He would make a commitment and then he would come and he would say, "Well, I would have done it except blah blah blah. I could have done that except." And finally one day I said, "You know, I think you believe that having a plausible reason for not doing something is the equivalent of having done it."
Yeah.
And he went,
Yep.
"Yeah, I think that's true." It's like,
Oh, he
okay,
did.
then yeah.
Oh, he
Oh yeah.
did. Oh, I'm
He
surprised. I thought he was going to just deny it.
No, I think because I mean, if it had been I mean, I wasn't his boss, so there was no risk for him to do that, I guess. But maybe
Yeah.
that was how he had always done it his whole life when people had accused him of that. I don't know. You know, like you can shut someone down by saying, "Yeah, you're right."
Yeah.
End of discussion.
Yeah, I've have a version of that where this person would delegate promises and then be like,
Oh,
"Well, yeah, I promised you that, but then
yeah,
I no longer can do that. It's not my responsibility to take care of that. So, it's not my fault. It's
yeah,
their talk to them about it. It's on them if they're going to, basically grant my promise true or whole." I'm like, "What?"
what?
It took
Yeah,
it took
exactly.
me a while to figure this out, but yeah, that's really how I summarize it at the end of it. I was like, "Oh, I get it. You think promises are delegable. You
Yeah,
can delegate promises,
delegate
which
them
I don't
and blame someone else for not having kept your promise.
yeah, it's not like a
So
credit that it's not like a bond or like a debt that you can sell off to somebody, which is
yeah, yeah.
funny. And yeah, so
Yeah. So there's a little bit like drama queen. I want to say drama queen is a specific way you go about explaining how you've broken the promise. So
yeah,
deflector would be, I don't know why you thought I was going to do that for you. I tried, but I can't make those things happen. Like a drama queen would be like, "Oh my goodness, I know. They changed my role and they put this other person in charge. And I mean, they took it out of my hands. Like really, I would blame management."
yeah. There's a group of people I used to work with way back when that every single like lunch or happy hour, it wasn't even like, or let's gradually transition to steering the conversation into venting about coworkers.
Mm,
It was like immediately, as soon as your butt touches that bench, it's like, "Okay, so yeah, can you believe this person did this?" I'm like, "What?
yeah.
I didn't even
Yeah.
order my water yet. What are you talking about?"
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
There's
it's
that's a
tough.
there's little clutches of people that feed each other that way. But they're sucking the energy out of the rest of the world and they're in tandem. They're in partnership about it.
And I will say these people held, unsurprisingly, a decent amount of power and sway and clout at the company because
Yeah.
people often would be like, I think the normal reaction there is like, "Oh, damn, like I didn't realize that this person did this." And then before you catch on to that, it's probably more them than the
Yeah,
other
then the
people.
people
And
there. Yeah.
this is their topic of discussion. Before you realize that, you're like, "Oh shit, like I should, I'm the new guy here. I should definitely try to like not be like that guy. I should try to, win these
Right.
people
Yeah.
over."
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so it's like a weird trend, ramping up
There's
or yeah, period before you realize what's actually
There
going
was a
on.
rule when I was a kid. I don't remember exactly where it came from. You don't make friends with the first people that want to make friends with you in a new situation. You make
Yeah.
friends with the people that the second or third people that want to make friends with you, because the ones that want to make friends with you at first are like that. They're like, "Come on in, and this is really weird, and this is awful," and yeah, they're
Yeah.
dramatic. I'm sure I've told you this story before, but one of the first times I realized what was going on about collecting stories was running a restaurant, and the waiters had a habit. All they ever did was come off the floor and talk to each other about how stupid the customers were.
Mm.
Like it was exactly what you said, where they just turned the corner and already they're going, "Can you believe table 10 wants water?" Like they were
Yeah.
just, they didn't tip enough. They didn't, blah, 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 blah. And it was very exhausting. And so I said, I was managed them and said, "Okay, we have a new rule. You're only allowed to say nice things about the customers. And I'm not kidding. And they're like, what? I'm not kidding. In the back room, when you're on shift, the only thing you're allowed to say out loud is nice things about the customers. That's it. Or else keep your mouth shut. And what really was happening is they wanted to talk, right?
Hmm.
And so they started collecting nice stories about the customers. They honest to God did. And they started seeing the things that they liked about the people at the tables.
Hmm.
Because honestly, what they really wanted was the camaraderie and the bonding.
Yeah.
And so they
I
were just as happy to say nice things.
took just before COVID, I took a public speaking course, and it was basically like because I was getting nervous about having to like rising the ranks at my job and
Right.
having to give presentations and whatever. So I was like, okay, let me take a public speaking course. And there was one exercise that we did. There's probably a group of 15 at this table, and the instructor was like, okay, we're going to do an exercise. I'm going to throw out a random topic. I'm going to point to somebody. They're going to talk about whatever comes to mind. And then if you have something related to say, or when you have something related to say, you put your hands on the table and you say it, right? And as soon as someone puts their hand on the table, you kind of pass the mic to them and you let the
Right.
person talk for a few seconds and you kind of move on. You do this exercise for a few minutes. The point of the exercise was to become hyper aware and of often how new ideas come to your mind, right? And like how your mind is just, I just thought of something. So the whole
Right.
point of the exercise was to realize that your brain is doing that,
Right.
which I thought was interesting. But the one rule to the game, which is why I'm bringing this up, was that you don't say anything negative. So if it's a related thing that comes to your mind, it's got to be like a positive thing. Don't talk about what you don't like. And the reason for that is because that is the lowest hanging fruit and that's the easiest thing to do. And it's
Right.
not very constructive, which I
Right.
I always think about. It's easy to take the contrary or like, to riff on bad things or riff on things that could be
Yeah.
better or whatever instead of being like,
So easy.
yeah.
Like I'm sure that you ran into that as in management, where people that are not management would criticize just randomly, like this is stupid, that's stupid, the whole world is stupid. And meanwhile, you go, do you want to know why? And they didn't. They didn't want to have. There was no. Not they. I think people can enjoy or feel good as a vampire in criticizing the other without any understanding of what's going on, like what's actually happening. There's no responsibility. You don't have to bring your integrity to the table. Like one of the things that always struck me was, 10 people would say, this guy's an awful employee. I hate working with him. He should be fired. Blah, 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 blah. And then he ends up fired and everybody's like, oh man, that was so unfair. How come, like, did he get enough like, and they flip on a dime
Hmm.
because there's no requirement for integrity or for not integrity. You don't have to be consistent.
Yeah, and it's those things can spread without like nobody's fact checking that so and so did this. You're just kind of giving your perception and perception shapes reality. So if your perception is this person's bad and did all these bad things, then as somebody who didn't fact check that person and is not in tune with their tendencies, you're like, okay, well, all right, well, take it at face value. This person
Yeah.
is not great. The other thing I just thought of, so I'm thinking about somebody who tends to like, higher up in the company, they gossiped all the time and in like group settings, happy hours and stuff. They were never okay with silence and they were never okay with
Right.
not being the center of attention and just sitting back and listening. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they tended to gossip because they were always grasping for, they didn't like silence.
What's
They
is
didn't like not being the center of attention. And if they hesitated, then they'd give up the proverbial microphone. And so I think it's not a surprise that they would just grasp for the lowest hanging fruit, whatever comes to mind,
yeah.
which is like,
Yeah.
oh, so and so sucks, or this
Yeah.
company sucks, or this partnership sucks, or whatever.
It's
It's really
also
surprising.
easier to grab people's attention with the negative, with the
True,
gossip.
as we know.
At least
Shout out the
initially,
media,
yes. To in their defense, they're trying to sell videos. They're trying to sell
advertising. Yeah,
advertising, right?
yeah,
Like, and so they're doing what we feed on. It's much harder to say something positive and draw and have people pay attention.
yeah. I
And
wonder why
also,
that
you have to be
is.
a bit smarter about it. You have to be smarter about it. Yeah.
I would say more thoughtful. Like you have to. It's more
Yes.
thoughtful
Yes.
than
Yeah.
smarter. Yeah,
You have to have some credibility with if you're going to say something positive, right?
yeah.
Whereas something negative, you can just say, "Well, that's my opinion. I just think they're an idiot."
I wonder why that is. I know that there's countless studies, none of which I'm attuned to, but like I wonder why that is. Our radars are more in tune for negative things. Is that like I mean, it's got to be a survival thing in some regard. Like,
So in my model, that's an energy vampire thing. That it is. that finding collaboration with people is a conscious decision and a responsibility for our energy. It's a more mature way of moving in the world. And energy vampire is the lowest common denominator. And it feels safe because you've got a team with you, a crowd with you, but it really is actually draining and will get you nowhere.
Why does negative stuff, why is it more polarizing than positive stuff? Is it because there's a perceived threat there with negative of like, I need to pay closer attention to this negative thing? Or is that more of like, it's easier to be drawn to that stuff because it's easier,
It's
it requires
I want
less
to say
thinking to be
it's
outraged? Is that what you're saying?
I think it's safer. It feels safer, at least at first. So you got a bunch of people being negative. It feels safer to tuck myself in and be in with the negative people and agree with them and look out at the other than
Mm,
to
I
stand
see.
in opposition to that and say, I don't really think that's true.
Yeah.
Right? Or where did you get that from? Do you have any evidence of that?
Right. Because then you become the outcast
Then
immediately.
you're an outcast. And I mean, you can see it all over the place, the manipulations that happen with people. And that's what part of why they have power, right? So
Yeah.
when I was working in an office, and it was one of the times when I realized it had been a long time since high school, and I had had kids, so I had been at home, and then I got into this office setting and kind of went, "Oh, women are bitches." If you leave, there's two kinds of women. Everything is dichotomy with me. The women that are supportive of each other, and the ones that cut each other down. And so there was a queen bee in this office, very small office, but she was the queen bee. And you didn't want to cross her because if you crossed her, she would go to the coffee room with people and beep, 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 beep. And like it was a small office. So if she didn't like you, it was awful. You were bullied beyond measure. And there was
Right.
one, like I could stay a little bit distant from it. I had a bit of a different role there and stuff. So I didn't really, she did try and charm me and bring me into the fold, which I also found a bit revolting. But there was someone that I worked more closely with that she did not like, I think because she was smart. And they were ruthless with this woman.
Hmm.
People that are otherwise nice people were ruthless with this woman. And it was just, I'm looking going, people, we work in a bookkeeping office
Yeah.
in a small town. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah. I've ran into that with many men for what that's worth. I've ran into
Mm,
guys that, senior execs that do that, that anyone crosses them, they're immediately on the shit list and being told, yeah, so and so would recount stories of anyone that crossed him personally
mhm.
and then twist it to make it applicable to other people. He did this to me, so I suspect that he would do this to you in these situations,
Oh,
right?
sure. Yeah.
Right. But it was clearly just like a personal petty thing that was
Yeah.
that was being projected. Another thing I just thought of. I heard a long time ago from somebody on a podcast, this one-off podcast. He was like, question the premise. That's how you maintain independent thinking. Is like question the premise, and he was referencing politics because it's very easy to reference in all of our faces. But that's how
Yeah.
a lot of manipulation happens in politics is that a premise is set and then a debate happens downstream from that premise
Right.
and
Right.
the debate is happening within, way downstream, but the trick was when the premise was set. When it's
Right.
something that's said in passing that nobody questions because it sounds
Right.
unharmful, but it sets the framing and the lens for the entire conversation, which is where the disagreements happen. But if you look behind, you realize that, oh, that's actually, that premise is not true. Like that's
Right.
your view of the premise, maybe, but that's not like objective truth. That's how things
Right.
become very dogmatic, is like people just present the premise and their viewpoint as objective truth, which is, yeah,
Which is
which can
right.
be
Oh, and that,
hugely
but for
problematic.
sure, that's exactly what happens in office situations, or
Right.
yeah, for sure, that's what happens too. I want to bring it back a little bit to energy vampire. So, because that's kind of the point here is
Hmm.
you can feel the difference. You know when you're in these traps. Like there, it's reasonable to say that I could have a problem with someone and I need to come and talk to you about it. I need to sort through what's that person's, what's mine, what's going on. That could happen and it could be real and it very real. And you don't get to just say, oh, if you talk negatively about people, then that's energy vampire. No,
Or if
it's
you're
not.
dram- or if you're dramatic, it doesn't mean
Or
you're
if you're dramatic, it's yeah.
being a
If
drama queen. Yeah.
that's right. That's right. And so the difference is consistency is one of the things. The more that you see someone show up with this drama type story, the more you can start to go, oh, I feel like you always have this problem. But the other thing is how it makes you feel. And that's the part that I think is super, super important to figure out is the difference between it's almost like having drinks and then getting hungover or eating a lot of sugar and then feeling like crap.
Hmm.
You can get sucked into the energy of it and not realize that you're in vampire mode, that you're being drained and or draining other people. And then afterwards you just kind of feel a bit queasy or dissatisfied or tired or out of sorts. Like the difference between when you're in vampire mode and with vampires and the difference between that and being in a situation that's collaborative is after a collaborative situation, which could be, I have a problem with a person. Can you help me? I want to talk about this. But after collaboration, you end up feeling rested and grounded and whole,
Hmm.
right? You end up, even if you've got a problem, you end up feeling, okay, I can handle this now. It's a different kind of exchange of energy. And that's to me, the whole point of all of this conversation is that we can actually tell the difference in our bodies of when we're doing something that feeds our souls and when we're doing something that poisons our souls.
Yeah, the way I describe it for me at least is just drained is the best word because I'm really and tired, drained slash tired. I'm being drained of my energy because it's an energy vampire, and so therefore I'm depleted of energy and I can feel it. Whereas if that didn't happen, I'm either neutral or injected with energy. So typically in that scenario, I suspect I'd be more neutral because I probably wouldn't feel energized by somebody telling me about their problem,
Yeah.
but I would feel neutral and like, okay, I get it. I understand. I'm not all thrown off from it. I wanted to quickly say something, and as you were talking through it, you were saying consistency
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah.
Someone has to show up consistently and be dramatic consistently before you can start to label them a drama queen. This may be a tough needle to thread, but I was thinking of it that when you first meet people like that, it's easy to get drawn into, they have more influence over you.
Right. They can
Um,
do. Yes. I actually
yeah,
have an antidote for that. But
they're
yeah.
more they're more persuasive when you first meet that personality,
Yes.
and then over
Yeah.
time they tend to expire once you know what's going on. They have less persuasion. They're less persuasive, less influence over you, and then that's about the time they expire in terms of having that their influence expires, and
Right.
then about that time, depending on the person, is when they'll turn on you,
Right. Right. Of
right?
course.
And so all that to say is that I think that's kind of a maybe a meatier explanation for me at least of why everyone knows that like if you see someone if you know someone who gossips a lot, it's probably only a matter of time before they're going to gossip about you if they aren't already.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's the general course of which what leads them to gossiping about you is that they're
Right.
influencing you. They
And
they
then they
they
can feel you slipping away.
Exactly. And then it becomes, oh shit, this person's a threat to me. They're catching on to my thing.
Right.
I need to then go set the narrative with other
Destroy them.
people, destroy their
Yeah.
reputation
Yeah.
before they start destroying mine. And
Yeah.
I've seen that a million times in business as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, that's the flip side of it. Yes, you're either in on the joke or the butt of the joke. One of the reasons that you get sucked in the beginning that's appealing is because they're drama queens. That means they do drama. We love drama. They can be very entertaining, right? They can be very funny in the way that they cut people. It can feel really good because you've kind of had a sense of that with that person too. And now here you've got you're in with the big wig and you agree on like there's a whole skill set that goes around that. And they don't have power once you see. This is the thing. This is the other magic piece about energy vampires is when I see that you're being a vampire and I stop feeding you, I disengage from it. So I disengage not only in I'm not going to listen to the stories and I'm not going to gossip with you. I'm also not going to care if you gossip about me, right? I'm
Hmm.
going to find because there are always these people as well. There are always other people that would prefer not to be part of this insanity. And you can very quietly migrate to spending most of your time with them and not caring. Like if you're working in an organization where the gossip of someone that is in control of your job is so bad that they can destroy your job if you don't play a game with them, you're in the wrong place. You have to go because there isn't any solution. There
Yeah.
isn't any way to have a life if someone is dominating you the whole time. But in most situations, if you look, you'll kind of see that there are other people that are on the periphery that just don't care, don't listen.
Yeah, I'm getting flashbacks of the overbearing people I've run into like that are super dramatic and super gossipy. They very overtly and like assertively try to pull you into that gossip
Yes,
and
yes,
try to get your co-signing of whoever they're talking
yes.
about.
They
And
need it, right?
it's
They have to.
nothing, I can't, very few things drain me more than that, trying to hold my ground in those situations and not engage. It's, yeah, that one will leave me TKO after if I have to hold my space in those environments for long, especially when the person's overbearing. So like the straw man of me getting caught in those situations, I think is like my people pleasing tendencies where I'm like,
Right,
you know, I don't want to leave you
right.
hanging on this conversation. I don't want you to feel like you're talking to nobody. I want to be there and have a conversation and listen to you. So I'm like, oh yeah, so and so I could see how they could be like that, or what. I'm trying to like not jump in the hole
Yeah,
with
yeah,
them, but be
yeah.
like, okay, I hear you, and like, yeah, that sucks that happened, or yeah, maybe you guys just don't jive. But then that's less draining for me. But then when I catch on and I'm like, oh, I get it. Like this isn't gonna stop, and like you're not really listening to me. When I then basically disengage, that one's tough for me. That one's tough. I do have a
Because that
problem
is
doing
so
that.
that's yeah, that's a spot. That's a trigger that has history with you. And there's one of those that like when you find those nuggets, you write them down and you go figure them out.
Yeah.
Because we don't ever have to heal if we don't want to. But the advantage of healing is if you can figure out what it is in your what why that in particular gets under your skin, gets you and it triggers you into participating or having to put up a shield. Like put up a shield is better than not put up a shield, but put up a shield is still energy work, right? And the goal is that there is no energy drain at all because there's no connection to this
Hmm.
vampire. So a shield is still, you're still engaged. And so the purpose of doing work around it is to resolve the trauma of whatever that caused you to create the vampire of pleasing people in the first place.
Hmm.
Right. And so it's not, there's nothing wrong with what you're doing, but it's old, it's an old story.
I think this is something you helped me realize kind of over time was that they don't actually, because in those situations for me, I worry that I'm like, oh man, they think I'm being a dick. They think I'm not
Oh,
listening.
yeah.
And then
That's
you were
you.
like,
Yeah.
right, that's me. And you were like, well, they don't actually notice that. They don't see that. Right. And they're not going
Right.
to have the same interpretation of that conversation as me. And
Right.
so that's a helpful thing to realize is that like not everyone, sees conversations or, not everyone has the same perspective as you. That's a very easy tendency to have is to think that people have the same outlook or perspective as you, which obviously isn't true. What true or not, I'll never be able to prove it. But yeah, one thing that helped me out of those in those situations is like, oh, they can't notice the disengage or they're not interpreting this as me being rude, even though it may feel like that in the moment for me. Like that's not it.
Yeah.
They're not
They
picking up
they
on
will
that.
interpret it as you withdrawing your energy,
Yeah, which is fine with
right?
me. I just don't want to my concern is
You
I
just don't
never
want to
want
be
to come
rude.
off as rude or like arrogant or, being a dick to somebody for no reason.
I want to say that's an energy vampire. That's an internal vampire because when you are in the place when you and I are talking, when you are engaged in positive activities, when you're not being a vampire, you just don't come off as rude. That's not a thing. Coming off as rude or aggressive or any of that stuff is because there's a vampire present. It's because you're in vampire mode.
Right. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Right? If you're in a collaborative mode, and okay, so if you're in a collaborative mode, is it possible for somebody else to take you as being rude? Yes, it is. But that's their vampires,
Hmm.
right? If you are presenting yourself in a grounded way, working on trying to collaborate with the other person, find some understanding, and they go, "Wow, that was rude." There's nothing you can do about that,
Right. Right.
right? That's
Right.
something in them.
I think I'm late to the party on that one probably, but I'm coming around to that. But yeah, that's a tough one. That's been a tough one for me to wrap my head
Yeah.
around.
And it's part of why, again, it's part of why this feels really important to me is because we get wrapped up in the stories of our lives and how we have to be perfect in order for other people to treat us well and how what they say could be true because we might miss stuff about ourselves, all that stuff. What I want to say is no, wrong focus.
Right.
Focus is on where's my energy? How do I feel? Am I grounded? Am I trying to collaborate? Am I reaching out to try and see what's going on with the people around me, open to whatever they have to say? Am I in that space or am I in a space where I'm fighting or trying to control? And controlling includes I don't want anybody to see me as rude, so I'm going to be super polite.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's controlling. That's vampire.
That's me. I've
Trying,
done that many times and I do
yeah,
that
because you're trying to
sometimes.
manipulate the situation to stay safe.
Yep.
You
Sounds
need
about
other
right.
people to have a certain reaction in order for you to feel safe.
Sounds about right. That's my fight, flight, or freeze, right? Like it's
Yep.
like the other four. Have you heard the fourth F, fawn? Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn?
Or fawn. Yeah, that's yeah.
So I do freeze and fawn are
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
two rabbit holes. Yeah.
Yeah. Fawn is definitely a thing. I mean, you say fawn and I can immediately see puppy dogs rolling over, showing their bellies,
Yeah.
doing one of those to feel safe. I'm just
Yeah.
little.
Which I think, yeah. Anyways, it's just interesting. I came across that recently in the past year. The fourth F, I always thought there was just three, but
I
fourth.
like it. I
Yeah.
like it a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was going to ask you, do you think that's the same as intuition, right? So, like, the example here is in the moment with and this happens to me, like, in the moment, I feel good in a conversation where maybe it's most times it's somebody I don't know or a new coworker. I have a conversation with them. I feel great. I don't feel off balance or I don't feel like I'm trying too hard. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm in the moment, paying attention, whatever. And then later, a few hours after our conversation, I'm like, wait a minute, maybe did that come off bad? Did they think this when I asked this question, did that come off bad? So like my point is that I trust my gut 100% most times when it doesn't have to do with how I'm coming off or like when
Right.
it
Right.
like in, professional choices or, self-care choices, I trust my gut 100%. But then the fact that there's someone else there that could have, in theory, misinterpreted how I was coming off, that's where I'll like question my
Yeah.
intuition. And you're talking about that as your energy and stuff. And I'm just curious, like,
Yes.
how close do you think energy and intuition are interchangeable in that?
The way you're talking about them, it's the same thing.
Okay.
Like, yeah, you say you trust your intuition. That's basically so if you can get in the room, I am 100% in the room. I'm talking to you. We're connecting. I'm not second guessing. I don't have a second voice in my head that's going, "Oh, I think you're being stupid. That sounds stupid," or your teeth are dirty, or whatever.
My teeth are dirty, but
I don't need to know that. They don't look dirty from here.
I mean, just so you know, I'm being honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm just, maybe that was intuition. I don't know. But I'm just saying,
You knew that my teeth were dirty.
I did. I
You could
didn't know.
tell. Subconsciously you knew, and your
A
conscious
little voice in
brought
my
it
head
to
said, say
light.
his teeth are dirty. If you're in the room and you can, like, okay, so the one that so I have go-to. So I go, okay, the space, the thing that I'm after, the feeling or the experience or the energy I'm after is the way I feel when I'm weeding the garden.
Mm,
So when I'm out in the garden, I'll have like a story I'm listening to a story and I'm just in the zone, just so happy because I'm doing exactly what I want to do, which is picking up this weed and picking up this weed and picking up this weed. Makes me so happy. And so if I can find that place inside me when I'm talking to you or when I'm meeting a new person or when I'm walking into a meeting or whatever, then I know I'm in the right place. I know I'm in the place where I can just let ideas flow, just, read the room as I go without second guessing whether I've read it right or any of the rest of it. And just, it's times like that when someone will say, "Oh, he was really mad about that." And you go, "I didn't notice that at all. I think it was okay." You can read the positive in the room or it isn't even positive. It's collaborative. Read the collaboration in the room and
yeah.
kind of the drama, the energy vampire stuff mutes. It just does mute because that's not where you are. You're listening to the collaboration.
Yeah.
And so later, of course, we're all insecure. We all have stories of how we're failures in the world. And so do we go to especially if we're tired or hungry or angry or lonely, we go to those places where we can beat ourselves up, where we probably did it wrong. We're probably losers. We probably missed something,
Yeah.
right? And it's a form of that's a form of self-soothing. That's the part that too, right? It is self-soothing for me to tell myself I'm an idiot.
Makes me feel good when I tell you that too. But
I don't know what that is for you,
you
but
are an
okay.
idiot.
I am an idiot.
No, yeah, I know what you're saying. It took me a while to realize that people notice that, and it's the most obvious thing to say in hindsight, but like people can know when you're when you're being genuine, and like
Yeah.
you will stick out by
They
not sticking
love
out,
it. Yeah.
you know? You will.
They love it. People, and that's the sort of the other piece of, and it's not a guarantee, which is why I don't say it that much, but the only possible way that in the moment you can switch a vampire to non-vampire mode is if you can beam out the collaborative energy. Like if you can really be in your space, not feeding any vampires, but totally in collaboration. And sometimes people will go, oh, that feels better. They will switch because they're not getting fed, but they can see, they can get drawn into the other kind of energy.